Imagine you are sitting by a fire under the vast African sky. The drums echo softly in the distance, and the stories of old begin to rise with the smoke. Tonight we'll hear two tales, one of humility in wearing old clothes as though new, and one of reverence in keeping clean when we prepare food for those we love. These stories, drawn from ancient wisdom, remind us that small acts of care carry the weight of honor, and that even in the quiet of daily life, the ancestors are watching. So settle down, breathe deeply, and let the stories guide you toward gentle dreams. Wear old clothes as new. Long ago, when the great river sang louder than the voices of men, and the plains trembled under the feet of migrating herds, there lived a humble family in a small riverside village. The father was a potter, shaping clay jars that carried water and grain. The mother was a weaver, braiding reeds into mats and baskets strong enough to last for years. Their home smelled of fire smoke, clay, and river water. Their daughter Amara was bright as dawn, with eyes that often lingered on things beyond her reach. Though her parents clothed her with love, she longed for more. The shimmer of new fabric, the brightness of jewels, the admiration of the crowd. Every year, the Festival of Drums arrived like the flood of the river. Traders brought silks from the coast, spices from the desert, and beads from faraway lands. The young women of the village would gather in the circle, dressed in robes that seemed to catch fire under the torchlight, while the men beat rhythms on the great high drums until the stars themselves seemed to dance. Amara's robe was different. It was a deep indigo cloth that had belonged to her mother when she was a girl. Though patched many times, it was always washed carefully, the dye preserved, the tears mended with patience. But to Amara, it looked plain. She would watch as other maidens twirled with bracelets that jingled and cloths that glittered, and her heart would ache with envy. One evening, as the sun melted into the horizon and the frogs began their chorus, Amara sat with her mother by the fire. The robe lay folded on her lap, smelling of soap and wood smoke. "Mother," she whispered, "please let me have a new dress. Just this once. I want to be like the daughters of the merchants, to shine so bright that all eyes will turn to me." Her mother paused, her needle stilling mid-stitch. "Child," she said gently, "you do not understand. This robe is not old, it carries life. Your grandmother spun the thread with her own hands. Your aunt dyed it with indigo gathered by the river. I wore it when I first danced before your father. Every patch is a mark of survival, through flood, through hunger, through years of toil. To wear it is to wear the strength of your people. Treat it as new, and you will shine more than the richest silk." But Amara frowned. To her young heart, these words seemed like consolation, not truth. When the festival came, the village blazed with light. Fires roared and the drums began, low at first, then rising like thunder. The maidens stepped into the circle, one by one. The merchant's daughter wore a robe threaded with gold. She spun proudly, but the fabric was fragile. With one sharp move, the seam split across her side. Gasps echoed. She stumbled, covering herself, and fled in tears. Another maiden's beads snapped mid-dance, scattering like seeds across the ground. Another tripped when her stiff new sandals broke. One by one, the ornaments of vanity betrayed them. Then the drums fell silent. All eyes turned to Amara. She stepped into the circle, trembling, her patched indigo robe hanging plain against her body. The crowd whispered, but when the drums struck again, something changed. Amara moved with grace, born not of glitter, but of strength. The robe flowed around her like water, catching the firelight in its deep blue folds. Where others had stumbled, she was steady. Where others had frayed, her garment held strong. The people began to clap in rhythm, their voices rising. By the time she finished, the elders were nodding, the children were cheering, and even the proud maidens could not deny the beauty that had emerged from what they thought was plain. When the dance ended, an old woman, a storyteller with hair white as river foam, stepped forward. Her voice cut through the night. "Child, you have learned what many forget. Clothes do not shine by newness, but by the spirit stitched into them. This robe carries the hands of your mothers, the wisdom of your grandmothers, the care of your family. You honored it, and it honored you." Amara's heart swelled with shame and joy. She ran home and knelt before her parents. "Now I see," she whispered. "Old clothes, cared for, are not old. They are like the wisdom of our elders, never faded, always new." From that day, Amara no longer envied the silks of the wealthy. She learned to patch the robe herself, weaving her own patience into its fabric. Years later, when she had daughters of her own, she taught them the same. Care for what you are given. Honor what has endured. To wear the old as new is to walk with the strength of your people. The robe passed down through generations until it was no longer seen as cloth at all, but as a relic of resilience. And so, in the village by the river, the proverb endured: wear old clothes as new, and they will never betray you. Be clean and tidy when you make tea or meals. In the rolling savannas where the winds carried the songs of drums and the earth glowed red beneath the sun, lay a village called Kijiji Chamoyo, the village of the heart. At the center of the village grew a baobab tree, so ancient that the people said it had stood since the first dawn. Its roots coiled deep into the ground, like the arms of ancestors embracing the living, and the elders taught that its trunk carried the whispers of the spirits. The baobab was not just a tree, it was the soul of the people. Every judgment, celebration, and oath was made under its shade. Beneath its branches, children learned their first lessons, lovers spoke their first promises, and chiefs spoke their last words. In this village lived Nia, a girl with a lively spirit. Her laugh was bright as river water, her voice quick as a sparrow's call. Yet though she was full of kindness, she lacked discipline. When she cooked, she left ashes scattered, pots blackened and water spilled. When she brewed tea, her hands were careless, and though her food tasted well enough, the process dishonored the gift. Her mother, a strong woman named Asha, often rebuked her. "Nia, my child, do not only feed the body, feed the spirit. The pot that is dirty cooks shame. The hearth that is untidy calls no blessing." But Nia only smiled, thinking these were the words of an old woman too strict for the world of youth. When the rains blessed the land and millet rose high, the people prepared for the feast of the first harvest. This was the most sacred celebration of the year. It was a time when songs echoed through the hills, when men returned from the hunt with antelope and gazelle, when women prepared stews that filled the air with spice and promise. But more than food, it was a time of honor. Each family presented offerings to the ancestors. Offerings judged not only by taste, but by the care, cleanliness, and reverence with which they were made. For the people believed, the ancestors do not eat smoke or soot. They do not drink muddied water. They receive only the purity of clean hands and a careful heart. This year, Nia's family was chosen to present the welcome meal, the first dish placed before the elders beneath the baobab. It was the highest honor and the greatest test. Her mother, though cautious, gave the task to Nia, hoping this might awaken responsibility in her daughter. Asha told her, "The eyes of the ancestors are sharp. They see what spills on the ground. They see the soot on your pots. Do not dishonor them." Nia bowed, but in her heart she thought, what matters is flavor, not fuss. Why waste time on small things? On the morning of the feast, Nia rose with the sun. She hurried to grind millet, but she let husks scatter into the dust. She fetched water from the river, but allowed mud to slip into the calabash. She cut goat meat, but left bones and scraps strewn across the ground. Her fire roared too hot, blackening the clay pot, and smoke stung her eyes. As she bent over the bubbling stew, a shadow fell across her hearth. A stranger had come, tall, wrapped in a cloak of woven grass, his staff carved with twisting patterns. His eyes glowed like embers, steady and burning. He said in a voice low as thunder in the distance, "Daughter, why do you scatter the gifts of the earth? Why do you treat food like dust beneath your feet? The millet you waste could feed a child. The water you spill could quench a thirst. Do you not know that every grain, every drop, carries the blessing of the ancestors?" Nia, startled, answered quickly, "But the food will still taste good. The belly does not see soot. The tongue does not notice spilled water." The stranger's gaze grew fierce. The ancestors notice. Food without care is food without spirit. Do not forget, they eat not only what is cooked, but the reverence with which it is made. Before Nia could speak again, A wind swept through the village, lifting dust into the air. When it cleared, the stranger was gone. The drums began to beat as the feast started. Villagers dressed in bright cloth and beads gathered beneath the baobab. Hunters presented game, women carried baskets of fruit, and children sang songs of harvest. At last, Naya approached with her family's dish. The stew smelled rich, heavy with goat meat and herbs. Yet the pot was blackened with soot, the stew thick and uneven, bits of husk floating in the broth. She placed it before the elders. The oldest among them, a man with skin lined like the bark of the baobab, tasted it. His face fell. He looked at the others, who tasted in silence. Then he said, "This dish is heavy with food but light with respect. The ancestors will not drink soot. They will not eat scattered husks. The spirit is not honored here." Whispers spread through the crowd. Some shook their heads. Others looked at Naya with pity. Her mother lowered her face, grief and shame weighing upon her shoulders. Naya's heart throbbed with humiliation. That night, unable to sleep, Naya walked to the river. The moonlight turned the water to silver. She dipped her hands into the stream and watched dirt cloud the surface, then saw how easily the current carried it away. She remembered the stranger's words, "Food without care is food without spirit." Nia wept. For the first time she understood, her neglect was not small. Every grain of millet was a gift of rain and soil. Every drop of water was the breath of life. To cook carelessly was to despise those gifts. From that day, Naya changed. She rose earlier, swept the hearth, and polished pots until they shone like bronze. She washed her hands carefully before touching food. She laid out utensils neatly, never rushing, never scattering. When she cooked, she sang soft songs to remind herself, "Clean hands, clear heart. Bright fire, humble art. Through the hearth the spirit feeds." At first, the villagers were skeptical, but over time they noticed. Her tea was always clear, never muddied. Her stews tasted of balance and respect. Travelers passing through would say, "Eat at Nia's hearth, and you will taste the sun, the soil, and the river in every bite." Her reputation spread until even chiefs sought her meals for ceremonies. Years turned, and Naya grew old. She became the teacher of the young girls, sitting beneath the great baobab with the children gathered at her feet. She told them of her shame, of the stranger who had come, and of the river that had taught her. Her words became a proverb on every tongue. Be clean and tidy when you make tea or meals, for through the hearth the spirit is fed. And long after she was gone, the villagers said that when the cooking fires burned neatly, when the pots gleamed and hands were washed, one could sometimes glimpse in the flicker of the flame a tall stranger in a grass cloak, smiling with ember-bright eyes. The fire burns low, and our stories come to an end. From old clothes treated with respect to meals prepared with clean hands and a careful heart, we've seen how wisdom weaves its way into the rhythm of life. May these tales stay with you as softly as the night wind. If you enjoyed this journey through ancient wisdom, I invite you to like and subscribe so you can join me again for more stories beneath the stars. Until then, may your dreams be peaceful and your spirit light.